Con dzwoninu. svårt att säkert vart. Men ja, kliniska leaderspunkter nog inte.
Nej. Merci. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this opening and award ceremony of this annual meeting of EAP. Welcome to this beautiful city of Ghent. My name is Nele Jacobs. I work at ILVO, the main organizer of this event, and I will guide you through this evening. My goal is to make sure you have a pleasant evening, but also to make sure you can be in bed on time. Because, as you know, the European Federation of Animal Science has put put a lot of effort into this scientific program, and with results, with more than 600 lectures to follow in the next coming days. So we will get started right away. The first speaker to kick off this event is Sam de Kampenere. Sam, I welcome you to the stage. Yes. Sam is president of the organizing committee of this 7th annual meeting and a colleague of mine at ILVO. For those who don't know, ILVO is the Flemish Research Institute for Agriculture, Fisheries and Food. Sam is scientific director of the Animal Science Department, but also coordinator of ILVO's Center of Expertise of Agriculture and Climate. So Sam, we are listening.
Thank you. Good evening and a very warm welcome here in Ghent for everyone. In particular, I welcome the President Emeritus of the European Council, Minister of State and President of the European Policy Center, Mr. Van Rompuy, the member of the Provincial Executive of the Province of East Flanders, responsible for agriculture and countryside, Ms. Grillert, the President of EAP, Matthias Gauli, and the former presidents of EAP. Dear colleagues, dear friends, it is a great pleasure and honor to welcome you all in Belgium. It was already from 1977 that the EAP conference was organized in Belgium in Brussels. So we are very grateful that ILVO and the Federal and Flemish Department of Agriculture gave us a green light to organize this conference 42 years later. Especially as this year we are celebrating the 70th edition of EAP, and we do that in Ghent, the same city where the very first EAP Study Commission meeting was organized in 1950. The last Belgian meeting in 1977 counted 550 delegates. The program book was still in 3 languages, and there were only 7 study commissions. This year, we welcome almost 1,430 scientists and professionals from 66 countries. The 11 study commissions of EAP have designed an excellent scientific program in the framework of our team, Animal Farming for a Healthy World, with 73 scientific sessions and 2 post sessions. Thank you for that. On Friday, 220 people will take part in the 4 technical tours. Tomorrow, there is also a very exciting plenary session, and before that, at 8:30, I invite you for the lecture of Joris Relaas, Administrator General of ILVO. He will be presenting the Belgian agriculture sector to you. We have also organized an attractive social program. I am glad to invite all of you this evening to the opening reception where you can taste Belgian cheeses and beers. Tomorrow we have our Belgian evening. Those who register will take part in a Breder Festival, organized in the very beautiful garden of the St. Peter's Abbey. Breidel is a local meat-producing company that organizes such Breidel festivals with the clear aim. They want to support TRIAS. TRIAS is a Belgian NGO. More information on TRIAS will be given later during this ceremony. On Wednesday evening, there are the guided tours in Ghent, and on Thursday, we will enjoy the conference dinner in the Handelsbeurs. In the name of the local organizing committee, thank you to all who helped in the preparations and organization in whatever way. Thanks to Matthias, Andrea, Eleonora, and the Secretariat of EAP and the scientific commissions. A special word of thanks to all sponsors, and in particular NuScience, our main sponsor. In total, some 30 companies are involved, which shows the importance of the connection between industry and research. To conclude, I wish you a fruitful and very pleasant stay in Belgium and in Ghent. I hope you will enjoy the different aspects of this conference. But if you do have any issue or problem, please contact us. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those welcoming words, Sam. Next up is Leentje Grillert, Vice Governor of the Province of East Flanders, responsible for agriculture. I'm looking where she is. Oh, okay. Well, although she just came into that position, she's quite familiar with agriculture and the challenges the sector faces, because over the past 10 years, she has been a city councillor responsible for agriculture. And so they told me, you come from a family of horticulturists. So, Leentje Grillert.
Thank you very much, Nele, for that warm introduction. Actually, I'm very pleased you mentioned my background, my family background, because I'm very proud of it also. So thank you very much for this introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, dear scientists and experts from all over the world, I heard there are people here from 35 countries, so that's a lot. That means that the world is quite present here today, which is so good for this Congress and so good for Belgium, Ghent, and the province. It is with great pleasure in this company that I, as member of the provincial executive of East Flanders, in charge of agriculture and rural development, I would like to welcome you at the 70th annual meeting of the European Federation of Animal Science. The government of East Flanders was very pleased to hear that the organization chose the city of Ghent to host the 7th edition of this conference. Therefore, we didn't hesitate also to support the event. It was mentioned before, but Ghent and the European Federation meetings have a history together. The first meeting, the absolutely first meeting, was held here in Ghent in September 1950. Later on, Brussels hosted 2 meetings in 1958 and 1977, and today we are very pleased to have you here again in Ghent. A warm welcome to you all. Not only does Belgium have a long history when it comes to hosting these meetings, it also has a history when it comes to the study of animal science. And as a provincial government, we pay a lot of attention to the agricultural and horticultural sector in East Flanders. We focus on the creation of an ecologically and socially valuable agriculture and horticulture, and of a livable and viable multifunctional countryside. Together with the care for a good organization of the applied research, these provincial priorities are supplied, of course, with the needed resources. Ladies and gentlemen, the main theme of this meeting is animal farming for a healthy world. We have an extensive program ahead with many interesting speakers and a diversity of subjects. But, it was mentioned by the previous speaker, besides this scientific program, an attractive and varied program of social events, guided tours and visits was set up for you to enjoy some of the beauties and delicacies of Ghent, East Flanders and Belgium. I warmly advise you to take your time for the beautiful city of Ghent, the capital of East Flanders. The city combines an impressive past with a vivid present. It has splendid restaurants, lively pubs, pleasant shopping streets, and an exciting nightlife for the ones who are interested, of course, because you have a very extensive program already. It's a home of over more than 70,000 students with an international reputation when it comes to research and innovation. People staying a bit longer or planning to come back, which I obviously prefer also, can also enjoy the green countryside. As you might know, Ghent and the province of East Flanders in particular are also renowned for another industry, namely the sector of horticulture. In our province, this sector is a very important economic sector, and it's a flagship sector for sustainable production. Innovation and research are also of vital importance for this sector. But of course, and last but certainly not least, I hope that the 7th annual meeting of this Congress in Ghent will be an opportunity to meet and socialize with colleagues and friends. Ladies and gentlemen, I already congratulate the organizing committee of this Congress for their excellent work. I wish you all a pleasant stay, and I want to thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leentje Grillaert. It is nice to hear that after 70 years, this event returns to Ghent, the city where it all began in 1950. Later this evening, we will learn some more interesting facts about the history of the Federation. But first, I am honored to welcome to the stage Herman van Rompuy, Belgian Minister of State, President of the European Policy Center, and former President of the European Council. He graces us with his presence here this evening in order to represent TRIAS. As some mentioned before, it is an international development organization supporting local farming organizations worldwide. Herman van Rompuy is head of the TRIAS International Advisory Council, but foremost is a strong supporter of the NGO's work. So, Herman van Rompuy, we are listening.
Mr. President, Madam Deputy Governor, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm talking with two hats on. One as former President of the European Council's Heads of State or Government, and two as President of the International Advisory Council for TRIAS, the development agency of the Farmers' Union in this part of the country. It's an honor to speak here in Belgium at the opening ceremony of this European Conference of Scientists and Knowledge Workers in the animal production sector. European federations such as the European Federation of Animal Science, EAAP, are incredibly important for the efficient acquisition and dissemination of knowledge in the sector. 1,350 delegates, representing around 500 organizations and businesses and knowledge centers, and coming from 63 countries, are present at this conference to strengthen international scientific networks. In research, it is often by bringing together expertise and viewpoints from different disciplines and perspectives that the most interesting and the most innovative questions emerge and are then answered. As you are well aware, the animal sector is an important sector in Europe. You face, as they call it, great challenges, but are still able to achieve global growth. Now I'm quoting from the most recent Agriculture Outlook 2019-2028 of the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, and of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, the FAO. I'm quoting, "Agricultural production is expected to grow by 15% over the coming decade. The direct emissions, mostly from three sources, livestock, rice, and synthetic fertilizers, so this will grow with 0.5% compared to 0.7% over the past 10 years. Bottom line, there will be an increasing productivity and a declining carbon intensity." To this, I would like to add that research and innovation are going to play a big part in this development. Within the EU agro-research budgets, Europe aims to realize, I'm again quoting, a sustainable primary production across three main themes: healthy livestock, future-proof raw materials and management of open spaces, and the third one, a more circular value chain. The themes in your program, such as resilience, agroecology, environmental impact, methane emissions, farming in relation to society, and sustainability, alongside the more methodological and technology-related subjects, all this illustrates to me that as livestock researchers, you are focused on the European targets. Your ultimate goal is to contribute to feeding the world's population in a healthy and responsible way. Two things about the EAAP conference have struck me as particularly positive. The first, the power of cooperation between researchers. With their presence, around 700 institutes, organizations, and companies, as I said, from 63 countries, demonstrate the importance they attach to international scientific contacts. They will undoubtedly experience choice stress. In 5 days' time, there will be 686 lectures and 459 posters. And due to, and there the research cooperation appears, due to a total of 6,000 authors and co-authors. My second observation about this EAAP conference is the societal engagement that is evidenced in this program. I hope that as a result of this conference, the European Federation for Animal Science will publish a statement on short-term livestock research priorities. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. President, the power of collaboration and societal engagement, two ideas that chime with the vision and mission of TRIAS, a non-governmental organization that will play a special role here at the conference and whose International Advisory Council I have been president of for several years. Dear researchers, the importance and the beauty of scientific research only become clear in its application, not just here in Europe, but also in the world's poorest regions. And when we talk about the application of new insights in the agricultural sector, this is about people. Never forget the organizations at the front line, the farmers' unions and cooperatives. And this is what TRIAS does. This is why your research and the work of TRIAS complement each other so well. Technical knowledge and scientific insights cannot be applied in the field without cooperation with strong local communities. And vice versa, your work is vital for improving the incomes of farmers across the globe. I have personally visited TRIAS project in the Andes and in Tanzania. In Peru, in the Andes, I was surprised to find a form of farming that is unknown here, guinea pigs, which are the local delicacy. Thanks to the low investment required and the little space and intensive work needed, guinea pig farming is actually well suited to older families and women. For TRIAS, this is also crucial, supporting projects that meet local needs and are aligned by local people to the local context. I saw this in Tanzania too, where TRIAS is helping to make the Maasai's traditional semi-nomadic livestock farming compatible with the laws of supply and demand that dictate the market. Recently, I was happy to learn that also in Tanzania, TRIAS supported the rollout of micro-fermentation installations. By fermenting the manure of a handful of cows, biogas can be produced that households can cook with instead of cooking with wood. This benefits both humans and the environment and is a great example of how scientific insights have practical applications. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, if an international organization wants to achieve something, it is logical that every country plays a role. And that's why I am proud that the Research Institute for Agriculture, Fisheries and Food, ILVO, in Dutch, just INVO, on behalf of Belgium has organized this year's EAAP conference in the beautiful city of Ghent. I very much hope you enjoy an inspiring time in this wonderful city. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Herman Van Rompuy, for those inspiring words. We take note that you expect an official statement about the research priorities in livestock, so maybe that can still be incorporated into the conference program. Ladies and gentlemen, to those attending the Belgian evening on Tuesday, I have a small announcement. The profits of that evening will be donated to TRIAS. Now, dear attendees, it is time to give you some insights into the organization of EAAP and its long history. I would like to welcome to the stage Matthias Gauli, President of EAAP. Matthias has started his academic career in animal science in Germany at the universities of Gießen and Göttingen. For the past 5 years, he has been appointed chair of the animal science group at the Free University of Bolzano, Italy. And since 2016, he has been appointed president of EAAP. So Matthias, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Nele, for these nice words. Thank you very much. Bolzano, Alto Adige, Italy. We're still not 100% sure if we are Italy or not, but you were basically right geographically. So warm welcome to everyone. I'm very happy I have to take off the glasses to see you, to see so many people, familiar faces, new faces, young faces, older faces as well. Thanks to the previous speakers for giving these very nice and warm welcome words. We're very happy and proud that you could make it to come to the conference. I want to give you some information, some feedbacks about EAP development, not too long, it will not take too long. I know the wine is coming closer to you, or the beer with every minute. So how do I change the slides? Is there, take my face away, it's not the best anyway. I have to live with this. Okay, take this one. So Animal is, I have to mention, this is done in cooperation, as you can see, with INRA, with the British Society of Animal Science. We're very proud about this journal, and it is clear to every one of you, this is the journal you have to go for. This is the journal where you have to publish. We have a nice impact factor of above 2. I tell you something, especially young people, impact factor is important, but it is not everything. The quality of a journal not always relates 100% to the impact factor. It very much relates also to the process of review. And this takes time. This takes time. If you go for the fast success, you may go for journals promising a review process of 3 or 4 weeks. Be honest, how is this possible? And to remind especially young people here, our reputation comes from the fact that we are producing quality and publishing quality, and sometimes quality takes time. So be patient if you wait for a review a bit longer than you probably would hope, even if you're a PhD student and want to become the doctor at the end of the day. Wait a bit, and this assures the quality, and I think it's extremely important for us, for our society. So we have advantage in animal bioscience. GLAD is driving this flagship where you can publish abstracts, conference papers, like upcoming the Symposium of Physiology in Germany, Leipzig. So if you have and need more information, you either go to the webpage or you visit Animal here, we are here, or you talk to the editor-in-chief, Isabel. She is somewhere, I can't see her, it's too light. But she is doing a very good job, therefore I want to thank her very much. Let's go to the conference here. You have heard already the incredible number, and this incredible number is only possible because some people were working extremely hard over the last 2 years and extremely hard over the last year. So I hope you're not angry with me if I just mention 4 names, and this is Bart, is Sam Millet, is Johan de Boer, and of course Sam de Campenere, who was working really full-time, practically for a year, to make this conference happen. And even if I'm under time pressure, I want to ask you to give them a hand. Thank you very much, Sam. So we have close to 1,400 participants coming from 35 different countries. They're coming from the US, and they're coming from Denmark. Why am I mentioning this? Is Greenland still a topic? This is the place to talk about. We have 45 from Denmark and a couple of people from the US. We are celebrating the 70th annual meeting. I thought it's probably time to ask the question, what has changed over the 70 years as we had the first meeting here in Ghent? So what has changed? The language has changed. If you would be in my age, have been at EAP meetings 20, 25 years ago, you would have had speakers speaking 4 different languages, not at the same time, but they did speak Russian, they did speak French, they did speak German, and they did speak English. So this was a huge change that we decided to go only for 1 language. Sorry if I say so for the native speaker, it's not 1 language. It's a type of English we try to speak, but at least we try. We try to do our best. Age has changed. If you look around, if you look in the back, we have, especially in the back, we have many young people here. And this is it's a very healthy situation. This means that the offspring is around, and we can slowly, slowly retire, lean back, and let them do the work. If we look at the office, a lot have changed. If you look, for example, for the Secretary in General, at the beginning, this is how we look now. If you look close, you see not a lot has not changed. He only has lost his smile during the procedure. But it's not the only thing. Also stuff if you go back to Ghent, for example, if you go back to Ghent, we had staff 70 years ago with very limited skills, completely changed. Look at this. She was actually performing in Dubrovnik. I hope she could do it here again. It's not in my hand, Eleanor, sorry. So she was singing in Highway to Hell, which was not the EAP hymn, but she performed really good. You see, we had a change. What else changed? Not again, what else changed is the opening ceremony. I had an original picture from the first meeting in Ghent 70 years ago. And if you have been to Dubrovnik, we had a different picture there. And I asked experienced Italian colleagues, can you see the difference between the pictures? Yes, we're playing cello now, so it changed. So you were promised that you get some deep information, more precise information about the history, especially about the last 20 years. And there was someone, Milan, available practically, being here around for the last 20 years. So we are extremely happy that we found him, could motivate him to bring together this booklet, which you found already somewhere in your bag. Go through it, it's really interesting to read. Milan, please come up to the stage and give us some of your information.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I press here. Yeah. The booklet you have in your bags is a product of a teamwork in the EAP Secretariat, and I express my sincere thanks to my colleagues who have helped me to prepare this booklet. Some of them you have seen in a previous slide, so you may rise and show yourself here to the present people. Gianfilippo Ercolani has produced the graphic editorial work, and Christian Lamberts helped me with his counsels and advices, Maria Specher also, and Kimberly translated our product from continental to English. International cooperation in animal science began in the 19th century when applicants of modern science to farming started to have an effect. And look at the case, the first international conference of animal production was held in this country 109 years ago in Brussels, followed Scheveningen, Liège, Zurich, and Paris. On 7 November 1949, representatives of ministries of agriculture of Austria, Belgium, Denmark, France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Spain, and Switzerland met in Paris and signed the document for the establishment of European Association for Animal Production. At that time, the three founders, country founders of the EAP were three non-European countries, Iran, Morocco, and Tunisia. And this event was preceded with a meeting of the Preparatory Committee in 1949. In the last 70 years, in past 70 years, or in the first 50 years, there were 8 presidents. The eighth was first Philip Zonszulich, whose photo you can find in this booklet. In 1999, John Hodges prepared Jubilee history, and he gave a lot of interesting details of the situation in Europe in 1949 when organization was established. The first task of the agricultural sector in the whole, but also particularly of animal sector, was reconstruction of production. Europe was destroyed by the war, the Second World War. The first task was to increase production, to feed people. There was a hunger, yes, in the world, but also in Europe. But the global population grew, but this growth was not as fast as it happened in recent decades. And there was increased demand for production. The task was produce more, produce cheap, but also make this production profitable for farmers who live to feed the rest of the population. In 1999, in the last 20 years, there were different priorities and different tasks of animal science and of animal production. First, animal production was affected with the climatic change, and animal science has taken into account new challenge, new problems which are coming with climatic change. There was continuous population growth and increasing demand for animal products. Increasing population growth is mostly in non-agricultural areas, in urban population is creating new demand for animal products. And what has happened in animal science is acceleration of information and global data flow. A few decades ago, it took about 2-3 years for an article or for a discovery to be made known to the rest of the world. Now it's accelerated, the information, the global data flow is practically in real time. Societal demands. When people had enough to eat, they wanted to eat safe food. Demand is to protect and produce more and protect the environment and protect products of good quality, taking care of animal welfare and also some bioethical aspects which will be dealt with by our plenary session tomorrow. These are sometimes conflicting demands. As I mentioned, societal demand was that food should be cheap. We are spending in Europe more on communication, on telephones than on food. Let us not speak about cars and petrol. And we still pretend to have good income give good income to our farmers. EAP programs followed these developments in animal science and societal demands. EAP programs were supportive to the rapid implementation of advances in animal biosciences. EAP has become a clearinghouse for the exchange of ideas and scientific information, as you can see even through all our history and our annual meetings. It influenced orientation of animal science and research in member countries, and its core business has become dissemination of information. You have seen some of this in Matthias' our president presentation. There is a list of our programs in dissemination information. I mentioned authors who have helped me in preparing this booklet, but real creators of this history are you, your predecessors, animal scientists. In the last 20 years, we have had about 1,200 sessions, workshops, and symposia. You have produced about 20,000 abstracts of scientific papers. 60,000 authors were involved in this work. You have granted 80,000 working days just attending meetings and sessions, plus some 20,000 working days of your travel and some 100,000 or 300,000 working days in preparing these scientific papers presented in our meetings. EAP has become a partner of European Union in the presentation in the implementation, development and implementation of research projects in animal production and animal science. There are 200 working institutions involved now in these projects. They included over 100 seminars, summer schools, and workshops, and publication disseminated information from these research projects through 45 newsletters and 10 web pages. As I mentioned, your contribution to you created this history. Who are main actors? It's over 4,000 now. 3,600 was when I started to prepare this booklet. Now it's over 4,000 individual and 35 institutional members. There are 200 officers of study commissions and working groups, members of working groups. 47 scientists were members of the council. 5 were presidents, 14 vice presidents, 2 secretaries, 14 auditors, 11 members of the secretariat. Future challenges: reducing environmental impact. Work in finding, in discovering, in searching for new sources of protein, alternative sources of protein, and in organizational sense, strengthening the role of membership and increasing the number of members. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Matthias and Milan. Those were some impressive numbers and videos, I must say. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we will keep looking back to the past just a little longer, to 1540 to be precise, the era of Emperor Charles V. I welcome to the stage de Gentse stroppendragers. Someone should go get them. Ah, there they are. You can come down now. Yes.
What a silence. Don't be afraid, we're harmless. no activist neither. A little history. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in Ghent, city of all times. In the 16th century, Ghent is no longer the mighty economical center it used to be in the Middle Ages. Little is left of the once flourishing drapery industry and commerce in textile goods. It's a hard time for the city. In 1537, the city is imposed to pay an additional imperial tax to fund the emperor's expensive war against, among others, his rival Francis I of France. This is a bridge too far, and Ghent refuses payment. After exhaustion of all possible legal procedures, all in vain, it finally comes to a bold and armed rebellion against the monarch. In the end, the emperor resides in a far-away Spain, and in between lies a buffering France. Provoked by the obstinacy of Ghent, Charles V decides to resolve the matter personally. When Francis I, in a moment of utter chivalry, offers the emperor free passage through France, dark clouds gather above Ghent. On the 14th of February 1540, the emperor makes his entrance in a frightened city with an army of more than 5,000 soldiers, followed by innumerable prominents, all in for a big spectacle. The imperial sentence that settles the destiny of Ghent is proclaimed on the 29th of April 1540 and demotes Ghent to a common province city. The city is found guilty of disloyalty, disobedience, breach of treaty, instigation, mutiny, and lèse-majesté. Ghent loses all of its freedoms and privileges. The town charters must be handed in. All city goods are confiscated. The alarm bell Roland is brought down from the belfry, and the city must pay an enormous fine. The Abbey of St. Bavo is demolished, and on its grounds, a menacing Spanish citadel is built. Several town walls and city portals fall victim to destruction. The verdict also provides a far-reaching humiliation for the city and its inhabitants. On the 3rd of May 1540, a procession leaves the vicinity of the town hall, direction the Prince's Court. The aldermen, town secretaries, and all town civil servants, 30 notable citizens, and all deans of trades walk barefooted and dressed in a black shirt. They are followed by 318 members of small craftsmen guilds and 50 weavers. This parade is closed by 50 screechers, dressed in a white shirt, the noose around the neck, and barefooted, as a sign that they deserved to be hanged. In the Prince's Court, they must kneel down and implore for the monarch's mercy in a loud and clear voice. From that moment on in history, the inhabitants of Ghent are nicknamed noose carriers. Since 1973, the Guild of the Noose Carriers, of which a delegation is standing here in front of you, annually commemorates this humiliation in its evocative parade during the Ghent Festival. This time no longer afraid, but with self-willed pride. We repeat the penalty excursion of the 3rd of May 1540, proud to be stubborn and a noose carrier. In the course of years, this parade of the Guild of the Noose Carriers that always takes place on the second Friday of the Ghent Festival has turned into an event that lures thousands of enthusiastic spectators to the city center. It forms one of the highlights of the Ghent Festival, a real must. Now that you all know a bit more about a small wink in our history, be it the origin of our nickname, we would like to honor some of the invitees with an authentic noose. So,
Yes, could the following people please come to the stage? So Matthias Cowley, President of EAP, Andrea Rosati, Secretary General, Jeff Pollott, responsible for putting together the scientific program of this meeting, Isabella Kazazu, and Lothar Widman, both members of the Council. You still need to...
There's no manual, but don't use it for the purpose it's originally meant to use. So, finally, to close, and before wishing you a very good stay and a pleasant stay in the most wonderful city of the world, we would like to finish with our city hymn, Klokken Roeland. If there are people from Ghent in the audience, please be free to join us in this moment.
Gent reist, eenzaam en grijs, trouwt Belfort zijn beeld van verleden, somber en groot, steeds stom en dood, treurt oude reus op Gent van heden, maar soms telt, en eensklaps scheelt zijn bronzen stemmen door de steden. Trilt in uw graf, trilt Gentse helden, gij Jan Guillaumes, gij Artevelden, mijn naam is Roeland, Kleppenbrand, en luidt de storm in Vlaanderenland. Een bont verschiet, schept bronzen lied, prachtig betovert mij voor dogen, mijn ziel herkent het oude Gent. Volk komt gewapend toegevlogen, land is in nood, vrijheid of dood, de gilde komen aangetogen. Zie Jan Guillaumes, zie Artevelden en stormend roept, Roelandse helden, mijn naam is Roeland, Kleppenbrand, en luidt de storm in Vlaanderenland.
Thank you very much.
I give them the time. I think I can continue. Thank you very much. This was very nice. It's a very useful tool. We'll use it in the council, and I have some, I have some ideas what we can do with this. Before we move to the award ceremony, and it would need the slides. Before we do this, I want to mention, it's my pleasure to mention a couple of names of our sponsors, and without sponsors, this event could certainly not happen and be like this, like it is, in a perfect form. New Science as a platinum sponsor, thank you very, very much. We thank the silver sponsors, we thank very much the bronze sponsors, you find them also in the brochure. We thank the sponsor of the app, and I have at the same time to excuse ourselves because the app is a bit behind where it should be, but it was even further developed. So you will be able to download a new version which even works better than the last one, or which is best, even the sponsor is mentioned there. So delete the old version and load up the new app, and you will find a much better working app, hopefully. Session sponsors, we have the Belgian sponsors and supporters, we have other sponsors, many sponsors, and we are extremely thankful for them supporting our meetings, not for the first time, some of them, but stay with us and make our meetings a great success. Ilvo was the driver of the whole, and is the driver of the whole conference, and I think we have to thank the Institute that they allow their staff to work so intense and hard for over a year to make this conference happen. So thank you very much to the government, thank you very much to the people which made this possible. It is more and more difficult to find institutions which are willing to give people the time to prepare a conference like this. So having said that, moving on to the next step, and it's my great pleasure to announce and give away the most important award we give away, the Le Roy Award. And this year it goes to the United Kingdom, it goes to Phil Garnsworthy. Phil Garnsworthy received last year the Distinguished Service Award, so it's the second award in a row. I have to disappoint you, it's over now, Phil. We don't have a third one, so this is the last one you will receive. Phil is a very nice example of people which can at one time work for an association, support an association, doing honorary work to an association, but being very efficient and very successful on a scientific level at the same time. So especially telling young people, you can do both. You can be active in an association, voluntary, and at the same time you can be a brilliant scientist. Phil has proven this. I want to ask Giovanni Savini, he's there, who is giving the laudatio to Phil. Please clap the hands.
Dear President, dear authorities, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, as the President of the Nutrition Commission, I am very glad that our suggestion to award Professor Phil Garnsworthy has been accepted by the Scientific Council, because this recognizes the importance of his studies in the field of animal nutrition. Let me say a few words about Phil. Phil Garnsworthy grew up on a small farm in the southwest of England, where his family raised pigs and calves. He went to Aberdeen University in Scotland and obtained a Bachelor of Science, Agriculture, with honors in Animal Science in 1977. He stayed in Aberdeen to do a PhD under the supervision of John Tops. In this PhD, he did pioneering work to show the effect of body condition score at calving on feed intake in dairy cows. Phil's work demonstrated for the first time that body fat inhibits feed intake, so fatter cows eat less during early lactation and are less efficient than thinner cows. This, as all animal nutrition scientists know, has influenced the recommendations for body condition score throughout the world. Phil was appointed lecturer in animal production at the University of Nottingham in 1980, where he has been ever since. He became professor of dairy science in 2009 and head of animal sciences in 2014. During his career, Phil has made significant contributions to knowledge of livestock production and animal nutrition. Areas of note include body condition score of dairy cows, synchronizing rumen energy and nitrogen supply, fatty acid metabolism, nutritional improvement of fertility in dairy cows, environment impact of dairy systems, measurement of methane from individual cows on dairy farms. Most recently, he has been studying relationships between the animal genome, the rumen microbiome, feed efficiency, and methane emissions in dairy cows under the EU Rumenomics project. He also leads a research partnership between Nottingham University and the Agriculture and Horticulture Development Board on Animal Health, Welfare and Nutrition, with particular emphasis on wool farm feed efficiency. Phil has supervised more than 30 postgraduate students, many of whom have become leaders of industry and academia around the world. He has taught over 6,000 undergraduates. He has published more than 250 scientific papers and abstracts, and has made more than 100 presentations at international conferences in 40 countries. For 25 years, from 1991 to 2015, Phil was secretary of the Nottingham Feed Manufacturers Conference and editor of the proceeding Recent Advances in Animal Nutrition. This was a highly prestigious conference, and the proceedings can be found in academic libraries and offices throughout the world, including mine. Phil has attended EAAP since 1983 and has only missed 2 of the 37 conferences. Since 1998, Phil has helped to organize and run the annual workshop on writing and presenting scientific papers, along with his colleagues Birgitta Malmfors from Sweden and Michael Grossman from USA. For this work, Birgitta was given a Distinguished Service Award in 2012 and Phil in 2018. So, Phil, thank you for your great contribution to science, especially in animal nutrition and in the EAAP. Thank you, Phil.
First you will get the medal.
Okay. Right, thank you, Giovanni, and thank you, Matthias. I have to say this came as an enormous surprise to me. I was very honored and felt distinguished to get the Distinguished Service Award last year, and I didn't really think I would be eligible for the Leroy Award. I've been practicing. It's not Leroy at all. So back in about January time, I was told that I was being put forward for it, and I thought, no, I don't stand a chance because I've already had one award. But then listening to what Giovanni said, it does sound as though I've done quite a lot of work throughout the years. So I would like to thank all my colleagues and my students who've done all the real hard work and let me stand up on platforms throughout the world and take all the credit for it. So really it's a huge team effort. It's lots and lots of people working together, and I'm just the spokesperson for those people. I'd also like to thank my family. They don't get mentioned very often. It's usually I'm off to EAP and they carry on regardless. Particularly my wife, Gail. Many of you will have met her when she's come to past EAPs and gone on accompanying persons tours and things like that. But also my son, Adam, in Vancouver, and my daughter, Lucy, in London. And I'd like to particularly thank them for producing 2 granddaughters in the past 13 months. So Eloise and Paloma, and they're the ones that I'm really sort of giving tomorrow's talk for. It's about greenhouse gas emissions, reducing the environmental footprint of animal products so that future generations can live in a cleaner, healthier world. So that's for my granddaughters I'm going to dedicate tomorrow's talk. So I'm not going to say too much about my research because you'll have to sit through it tomorrow and listen to all that I've got to say about it. Hopefully you'll find it interesting. I find it interesting. It's really fascinating the way that by improving efficiency of animals, we can increase profitability for the farmers, we can increase the social aspects and feed the world, but more importantly, we can reduce environmental impact. So thank you very much for this award.
Thank you very much, Phil, and congratulations again. To remind you, Phil's talk will be tomorrow after the plenary session at 12 o'clock noon. The next awards are the Distinguished Service Awards. It's a great pleasure to announce that Antonella Baldi is the first one to receive it, and Bruno Ronchi is giving the speech in Italian, I guess. While you're coming over here, I had the pleasure to work together with Antonella on the council. It was really fantastic. Thank you very much, Antonella. Bruno, please.
Dear President, authorities, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor and a pleasure for me to present Antonella Baldi for the 2019 Distinguished Service Award. And let me say it's a great honor for all the Italian scientific community dealing with animal science. In her long career at the University of Milan, Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Antonella has been able to demonstrate excellent capacities in research, teaching, and organizing activities. Full professor of animal nutrition since 2000, Antonella has been involved in quality of vice president in the board of the Italian Association of Animal Science. Recently, Antonella has been nominated vice rector of the prestigious University of Milan for the international strategies. Antonella dedicates the most part of her research activity to study the relationships between nutrition and animal health, coordinating many national and international projects. There is a long list of national and international commitments. I just want to highlight what is related to EAP, the organization of biennial workshops on biology of lactation in farm animals. From 2006 to 2016, section editor of Animal, the journal of EAP. From 2014 to 2018, council member of EAP. So, thank you very much, Antonella. And we all together wish you all the best for your career. Let me say also for your big and fantastic family.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bruno. Thanks, Matthias. I am really honored and quite emotional of this important Distinguished Service Award. And I must say it has been a great privilege to be a member of the Council, to work with the colleagues and to the presidents and also the staff, and I learned a lot from them. Well, I must say that I owe a lot of
things to EAP, and I take the advantage of this award to communicate, especially to young people, how important it has been and still is EAP for my professional, scientific, and personal life. Just to give an example of that, I remember when in '92, for the first time, I joined, as Bruno told, the first workshop on biology of lactation in farm animals. BOLFA is a workshop that's still continuing now. It is initiated as a joint event of EAP and ESAS. And at that time, in '92, and every 2 years we met alternatively in Europe and in America, we met scientists from different disciplines trying to focus and translate basic knowledge, basic research at mammary gland level, at cellular and molecular levels, to field and more applied research in lactation, milking, mastitis. We made translational animal science at that time, even quite before that translational word was invented. And afterwards, we realized that we were translational scientists. And there was a pioneer group, and I would thank one name for all, Chris Sayerson, because he trusted a lot and support a lot this community. And I think that many of us are still in this room. Well, and why I say that? Because EAP is this thing. EAP is the environment when scientists, young people meet, make brainstorming, face-to-face meeting, sessions of scientific debate. And this is important because new initiatives, new relationships, ideas came out, and what especially is important for young people is supported, and the achievements are published in our beautiful journal, and I am proud that, as Bruno mentioned, I took part since 2006 to the editor team, and I would really thank all the colleagues working with me, and I would like to thank editor-in-chief Michel Doreau, Jean Noblet, and especially Isabelle, the fantastic Isabelle Ortiz that brings us to these beautiful results in our animal journal. Well, I stop here because otherwise I become nostalgic and I'm not retiring yet, so I have to finish and to conclude, and thanking, of course, all the colleagues that have worked with me, the colleagues of the Italian Association of Animal Science and Production, that now we are working for Florence 2022 meeting. We are waiting for you there, of course, and I would like to conclude dedicating this hour to my husband, Vittorio. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Antonella. Thank you very much. The next award is going to Spain, to Eva Ugarde, someone I know. Just a second, Johan. Cool, tranquilo. Going to Spain, I know her since many years, and I'm very happy that she is receiving the award, and she really deserved it. While Hans is standing, this reminds me the fact that we have produced an EAP t-shirt for this special meeting, which you can buy at the EA booth. And we found one of the top male models presenting you the shirt. You can get an idea what it is like. And it's by luck Hans, who is at the same time giving the laudatio. Now, Hans, is your turn.
So, dear colleagues, it's my great pleasure to introduce to you Eva Ugarde, and I tried a second name as well, which is Sagastizabal. Okay, so Eva was born into and grew up in a very big family in a rather small farm in Basque Country. She was the 10th of 11 siblings. And on the farm, they had Lacha sheep, which is a dairy sheep, as well as a local breed of triple-purpose cattle. So the third purpose was, of course, drawing cards. But from there, she went to university, Universidad Complutense in Madrid, as a biologist, and did her master work, or at that time it was called differently, on Drosophila melanogaster. But later on, for the PhD, she went to be for animal breeding, and she did her thesis work on something that we animal breeders can understand and relate very much to, looking at contemporary groups, whether we should then treat them fixed or random in our statistical models. Then she started working for NICAR, the Basque Institute of Agricultural Research and Development, and that's where she has been all time since. So she's working there for quite a long time already. She started working on dairy cattle, but soon moved to Lacha sheep, and she's the manager, I think, of this breed. It's about 70,000 dairy sheep in the Basque region, but also Navarra. And so she's having a very, very big heart to the sheep and the farmers, and is working very closely with them. The way we should, I feel we scientists should work with farmers, actually. Then she is also taking care of conservation of local endangered breeds in the Basque country. Another thing that she's been doing for many times is supervising PhD students. And Andres Legara was your very first PhD student. And he told, when I talked to him today, you couldn't have a better PhD student supervisor at all. So he was really, really feeling the same, and I think that other students, the one we met this afternoon also, was agreeing on that one. So I think you did a very, very good job in this one as well. Her involvement with EAP is just, to call it like this, being a very, very active member. She hasn't been a commission member, but she has been just the Sheep and Goat Commission. People told me she has been very, very active all the time in all business meetings, coming up with new ideas, what to do next and things like this. So looking at the current EAP, she's a co-author in 5 presentations, 2 oral and 3 posters, and she's been like this all the time. Your first attendance was in Edinburgh, 1994, and ever since, almost every year, or probably every year. So for me, and I think this is why we should express the distinguished service to you, you are a role model for me. You're a very active person. You're, whenever I'm around here in the conference, you're among Spanish colleagues. There's always a big Spanish delegation, and you're in the center of it. And this is just the way but of course you're not only interacting with them, but with all of us. And you like dancing and at the evenings and things like this. It's just a good way of how this society should be run and how people should behave, actually. Thank you very much for this, Eva.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, thank Hans for your introduction, and I don't see Andres, but thank you for your really beautiful words. And thanks the Council because this award, I am sure that there are many people who deserve more equal than me, but it is me who is here. I am very happy, very proud, and it is a honor for me. And I also want to thank the breeders with whom I work because I learned a lot from them. My institution, NACER, my colleagues and students, they always help me a lot and work very hard. Of course, my family. I have a very big family, but especially my husband and 3 daughters. Even though I spent a lot of time away from home, for example, attending almost every year this meeting that coincides with the birthday of my youngest daughter. She will be tomorrow 22. I never have a problem and always has been very, very easy to combine professional and personal life. And to finish, I want to thank all of you too and the Council again.
Thank you very much, Eva. So the last award for today is the Distinguished Service Award. Is going to a gentleman many of you may know. And it's my pleasure, actually, to say a couple of words about him. When I was asked if I would do so, I thought I should do it Mike style, meaning unprepared, but I'm not able to do so. I'm not able to do so, therefore, of course, I was looking at his CV and very much impressed. Born 22nd of April in the last millennium, of course, in Kent, which is about air distance 100 miles from Ghent, actually. It's just around the corner, if you like so. He has a degree bachelor degree in animal science, a PhD in dairy cattle breeding. I'm not going to talk about him as a scientist because he's a very brilliant scientist. Many research grants, many publications, many invited papers, many awards. He is on many committees and many boards. He is very active in all fields of research and science. Why he is honored today, and this is I'm going to talk about, is for his activity within EAP. By the way, if you look at his CV, which is available in the net, and there you will find other interests beside research, and number 1 is food and drink. I was not surprised by that. His activities within the EAP, he was vice president for 4 years in the Cattle Commission and extremely active, was actually 7 or 8 years in the Cattle Commission, and he was council member from 2015 to 2018, and at the end he was even vice president for research. As I said, he never seemed perfectly prepared when he joined the meeting. So first years I thought this is his strategy. After having the pleasure to work with him for quite long, I found out this is how he is. But, and here comes the but, he's a genius and he has a very unique talent to realize, analyze a situation within a second, give a speech, give answer to important questions, and really adding very valuable things to the discussions. Most of the time, I have to say, Mike. Dear Mike, it was a real pleasure to have you on board. I was so lucky that you have been council member, like Antonella, while I'm in charge. I will really miss this, but I'm happy we will still see. If you survive your renovation at home, I guess we will see you regularly. Please come here. I will not kiss you, Mike.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody, and just take the previous discussion so far, and I'll add a bit to it because I would like to express all the same sentiments. It's a great honor, a great privilege. And previously, when I was young and in my 50s, sitting out there in the audience, looking up here, it always struck me that they gave these things to old people. So you can imagine my surprise earlier in the year when they were considering me, and I thought, well, that's a bit unusual. But of course, I have actually 22nd of April, 1959. So this year is my 60th birthday. And so I am actually one of them. I am old. But nonetheless, not that notwithstanding, I've still got plenty of oomph left in me, and I'm looking forward to, at some point, retiring, because in the UK they keep pushing the retirement age further and further forward. At some point I'll end up retiring. But between now and then, I've got lots of interesting things that I'd like to pursue, and might even come back here another time with the Leroy Award. You never know. But I think, as others have, I'd like to recognize somebody who was very, very influential in me getting to this point in my life. The giant upon whose shoulders I have stood in the past is Professor Bill Hill from Edinburgh University, and he was the one who created this monster. I did my PhD when I was 40, funnily enough, and he was my supervisor, and I've enjoyed it greatly. A lot of the work I've done is actually based on Phil Garnsworthy's work, which you heard a little bit earlier on, body energy mobilization in dairy cows. But finishing off, I think, looking going forward, we're doing lots of interesting things on machine learning in Edinburgh, and it's fascinating to me, and I think a lot of the youngsters out there should be reassured that the future is looking really, really good for animal science and food production. There's lots of really interesting things going on, and I'm looking forward to coming back here again when I'm even older and getting some other kind of award for something or another. But thank you, everybody, and thank you to EAP for awarding me this great honor. Thank you. Yeah, get the picture. Yeah, get the picture. Get the picture.
Thank you, Mike. Mike, to receive the Leroy Award, you have to spell name correctly. Once you learned it, you will have a chance, I tell you. So we're moving on. We have now really the young scientists on stage, and we have to give away, and we are happy to give away a couple of awards. The first one, the Young Scientist Award 2019, is going to Poland. And I'm not sure if it's male or female, so I would be really happy to see him or her. Is she here, Elena? She's he? He? Where is he? Ah, come.
So thanks very much. It's already 4 years since the EAP Council launched this Young Scientist Award. It was devoted to recognize early career scientists who had an outstanding research performance and in a European dimension and who were involved with EAP. This year we have received many good candidates, and we are very proud to give the award to Marcin Psiola, who is assistant professor in animal genetics at Poznan University of Life Sciences. He really meets the requisites very well because he has produced a large number of papers, has participated in several European actions, and he has been quite involved with EAP in the past years. He has presented here several contributions and is now a member of the Genetics Scientific Commission as a representative of Young EAP. So this award, Marcin, means that your name will be in the plate with the recipients from last year. This one is for you to keep, and besides you will have a free registration at an annual EAP meeting and an invitation to contribute with the paper, so congratulations.
So thank you very much for recognizing my contribution, and it's I'm glad to say that it's not only old people that get awards, so there are chance for young ones as well. I'm very pleased because of that, and I would like to thank my teachers and my colleague because what I do, it's collaborative effort, and I wouldn't do them without that. And also I would like to thank my family for the support, because without that I wouldn't be able to do my work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we give away a Schaumann Award and the Wageningen Academic Publisher Award, and I was asking Mike Jacobs to come on stage and give it away, and then I found out it's not selected yet. So, it is selected? Perfect. Do you have the name as well? Sorry, come here, Mike. Please help me out of this. Schaumann Award is going to Tunisia this year. Congratulations. Are you here? Congratulations. Here you are. Why do you know the name and I don't know it?
It was indeed a challenge because today we had 2 sessions in the morning and in the afternoon. In the afternoon finishing at 6, so the jury had little time, meaning that I also had little time to prepare this presentation. And anyway, it's an honor for me and a pleasure to present the results of the Wageningen Academic Publishers Early Career Competition. EAP and Wageningen Academic Publishers have a long history, going back to the mid-90s of the previous century. Wageningen Academic Publishers have always tried to help the young people to attend the meetings, first by offering a scholarship, and since a couple of years by offering an award to young scientists winning the competition. The winner will receive free participation to the 2020 meeting in Porto next year, in Portugal. This year the competition was organized by the PIC Commission, and I would like to thank very much Egbert Knoll, Katarzyna Statnica, Torun Walgren and Sam Millet for all their work on organizing the competition, selecting the abstracts, judging the presentations, etc. Because we had a lot of submissions and only 21 were able to present today. 21 scientists in the early career competition, all giving a very good presentation. Very high quality work, which made the decision for the jury very difficult. The participants were judged by the following criteria: innovation, scientific content, presentation, and enthusiasm. And there were 4 speakers standing out, which I would like to tell you a few things about in random order. Let's see, first there was Lieselot Hemerik from Belgium for giving a very clear presentation with highly innovative research with an implementable approach. And the presentation was easy to follow with a nice layout. These were the words of the jury. Marcin Pstoa from Poland for showing great enthusiasm and storytelling, challenging existing knowledge and providing a clear, informative and educative presentation. Lisanne Verschuren from the Netherlands for speaking with passion about her science, giving an informative and accurate presentation that was perfectly prepared. And last but not least, Matthias Ottesen from the UK for excellent science in a very relevant area, a natural speaker that was enthusiastic for questions and welcoming discussion. It was very hard for the jury to make the final decision, but in the end they agreed that there was one winner. And I can make it long or I can make it short, but we were a bit shocked by what happened earlier, because we had a quick discussion earlier, a couple of minutes ago, but we decided that this person deserves it, so he will get it anyway. Please come to the stage again, Marcin Pstoa from Poland.
Congratulations. We can take a picture together if you'd like to take a picture. If you stand in the middle, and can we take a picture of the... You go in the middle, and you go to the right side.
Okay, no, the winner should be in the middle, don't it?
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow, this is a story for the family. Wow. Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
You will come again to the EAP meeting, I guess. So we have a number of scholarships which we can give away, lucky enough, because of our quite healthy financial situation. I want to come them all on stage, and I will give away your scholars. Please come down on stage. I not try to read all the names, just come down if you find yourself in the list. If not, don't. Animal is giving away a scholar to Hali Kadrin. Is she here? Someone is moving in the back. She's coming here. Congratulations. You can stay here. No. I'm missing an award. Have you taken out a slide? I can say a thing, but is something missing? Excuse us. No, I'm talking about the notice. Yeah, but where's the slide?
It's not my fault. I can tell you already.
Of course it's your fault. This is the one. It is not your fault, Elena, like always. I did remember that there is another very important award. It's coming from Novus, and I'm very happy that Albert de Vries came over from the US to present the award. He is the representative of the American Dairy Science, or the Dairy Science Association. Albert, please come here to give away this award to someone from Belgium. You can say.
Okay, on behalf of the American Dairy Science Association, congratulations with this award. And this means she is invited to present her work at the ADSA annual meeting next year in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Thank you very much. So this is the final view into the future. As you can see, this is the announcement of the 100th EAP. And we had a little competition which was created by the secretary, and the young scientists could could go for it, and they had to offer a perspective for how will EAP look in the future. And we received this very nice booklet. Mike, you will be happy, it's still Wageningen is still responsible for publishing our abstract. And if you can see, there is also a vision about what topics we will have had over the last 20 years. It's teaching in animal science, and it's poultry commission. Actually, to be honest, this is one of the points which also moves the council to bring more poultry people here. And Egbert Knoll, the president of the Pig Commission, is also working in this direction. And you see that we will not only talk about animals in the future, as it is announced in this abstract, we will also talk about art. So we'll move into art and social science. So this is a very nice perspective, and we thought that Evelyn Delolde, who did produce this, I'm not sure if she's here, she will receive a little gift from the office, which will be handed out by Eleonora during the meeting. Thank you very much for taking part of this competition.
Now we would like to show for the last time the video.
No, I go forward. We'll be very late. So I hand over to Nele. Nele, we're almost in time. We did our best, but thank you, Nele.
Hi, again, yes. Congratulations to all the award winners. We are almost at the end of this evening, but not quite yet. Before you rush downstairs for the reception, I invite you to sit down for another couple of minutes because we have an interesting guest among us, Daniela Provost, an expert not in animal science, but in another very important and complex topic, Belgian beer. So Daniela is a certified beer sommelier, and she will do her very best to give us an introduction into the wonderful world of Belgian beers. Enjoy.
Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. I am a psychotherapist and a beer sommelier. It's a bit of an odd combination, but there's no need to worry. The reason for my presence here tonight with you is only for the latter, not for the former. It's not my business. I have to excuse my partner, well, my colleague, in fact, Janos de Baets, our brewer, who was supposed to be here, but had to cancel last minute due to unforeseen circumstances. But I'm here to talk to you about one of my passions, and that is beer. I am, together with Janos and Dimitri, one of the 3 co-founders and co-owners of Dog Brewing Company, and that is our new brewery here in Ghent. We just check out this, see if this works like a charm. This is a view of our brewery here in Ghent. The 3 of us, Janos, Dimitri, and myself, we are very passionate about beer, and we've been busy in the beer world for a longer period of time. Dimitri is one of the founders of Pils 13. That's an artisanal pils that you will get to taste later on. I myself am also involved in L'Arrogante, which is also another beer in Ghent that you will also get to taste later on. As you may know, us Belgians, that is a bit the consequence if you have a conference in Belgium, you will hear about beer, you will talk about beer, you will taste beer. But we are, in general, Belgians quite humble, meaning that we don't blow our own horn. And I see myself, I don't see our Belgian flag, there it is. But when it comes to our beers, to Belgian beers, we can display an unprecedented level of patriotism, and sometimes even some cockiness. You know, Belgian beers are the best beers in the world. There was a time where we could freely and happily make fun of Dutch beers, of American beers, of any other beers, actually. But that time has revolved. That time has passed. We also could, put in question if beers from our neighbors in the north, from Holland, were in fact actually beers. I will spare you the many, many Heineken jokes, but we do have plenty. But the beer landscape has changed a lot since then, has changed drastically in Europe, I must say. There is truly a worldwide beer revolution that has been going on for decades, actually, and to which Belgium, maybe surprisingly, was a bit slow to catch up. And it has to be said, Belgian beer drinkers are in general very traditional drinkers, meaning that when we are relatively young, say teenagers, in Belgium it's legal to drink beer from 16 years on. So at that time, we found one or a few beers, usually one, and that beer is our favorite beer. And we will choose it and drink it until the bitter end. We proclaim it solemnly as my beer. Nothing else comes into our mouth. Which is, well, a nice example of customer loyalty. It's very well lived through. But it opens, or it closes actually, more the way to different smaller beers, smaller breweries, of which we have now a ton in Belgium, also in other countries, but also in Belgium the scene has changed. Strangely so that the popular beer styles in Belgium, or most populars, are Pilsners and Triples. You probably had a few since you have been here, or maybe. But the most popular one of those two is Pilsner. Most people think it is a Belgian invention or a Belgian beer style, which it is not. It is actually a Czech invention. Nothing to do with Belgium, but we like to proclaim it as our true native Belgian product. Bit of marketing lies here and there. Not only do we love our beers, do we love our beer culture. That is the most important part, I think, of what is beer culture in Belgium. That's the whole life we build around beer. The fact that beer is actually integrated in our everyday life. Of course, in parties, in receptions, but in the day-to-day life, lunch, dinner, parties, what have you not, beer is always present. And it's not a coincidence that already in 2016, well, 3 years ago, Belgian beer culture was inscribed in the list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity by UNESCO. Not a small matter. And rightfully so, we think, because beer is in fact culture. It's not just a beverage, it's everything around it. And to understand beer and the story of beer is understanding specific political, historical, and economical contexts all through the ages. 4 basic ingredients to make beer. Belgium has had, over the ages, some important advantages compared to other beer countries. For example, in Germany, there has been for a very long time Reinheitsgebot. Reinheitsgebot said that brewers were only allowed to brew with the 4 basic ingredients you see right there. That's water, malted barley, hops, and yeast. No other ingredients were allowed by law. In Belgium, there were no such restrictions, so brewers were actually free to experiment and to create a wide variety of styles. We have a very broad landscape of beers here in Belgium. Another big difference with, for example, the United States is that we never had to deal with prohibition or a generalized alcohol ban, leaving our brewers free to perfection their art and the breweries to evolve and grow over the centuries, making tradition and heritage key elements in our beer culture. The downside of these 2 factors is that both can go hand in hand with some resistance to change. The American prohibition was, in hindsight, a crucial catalyst for the worldwide beer revolution. Under the alcohol ban that lasted 13 years, so till 33, the number of breweries in the US plummeted. Only the big ones survived, or the very big ones. Among them, some well-known names like Miller's, Anheuser-Busch, which is now the biggest brewery in the world. And once prohibition ended in 1933, the big players were able to flood the market with mass-produced, cheap-to-make, and easy-to-drink lagers. The after effect of prohibition lasted till well in the 70s. With an all-time low number of breweries in 78, there were only 89 breweries in the whole US of A. Truly grim time for American beer lovers who were confined to drink beers Belgians would not be caught dead with, and still would not. And that's when homebrewers came into play, people who would experiment in their home, in their garage, in their garden even. They knew that if they wanted to drink good beer, they would have to brew it themselves. But because of the tabula rasa that was prohibition, there was no tradition to fall back on. Some of the homebrewers did in fact know the European tradition because some of them were veterans from World War II who tasted European beers, albeit in the most horrific circumstances, but went back home and brought all these tastes and the longing for these good beers with them. So these homebrewers turned to Europe for inspiration, mostly with German, Belgian, and English beer styles as most common examples. But rather than simply copying these recipes, they made their own interpretation of the European classics. And the use of one key ingredient would change the face of beer, actually forever. And that is American hops, bringing about the success story of the beer style that is IPA. If there are beer lovers in the room, you've probably heard about IPA, maybe have had a few. Hop was not a new ingredient. We have been using hop for centuries, but hop is a very terroir-sensitive plant, which entails that the flavors and aromas of a hop variety will vary according to the region and the climate where it is grown. While European hops showcase more spicy tones, think even something peppery, American and other New World hops are known and loved for more fruity tropical aromas. Think passion fruit, grapefruit, etc. So it's a big difference between European hops and American hops. But more about hops in a minute. These are very big hop fields in Yakima in the Pacific Northwest of the United States. Meanwhile in Belgium, meanwhile in Europe, nothing much changed on the front of brewing and beers. We were enjoying the beers we had been for ages or for centuries, resting on our laurels, which we still tend to do, and completely oblivious to the revolution that was taking place across the Atlantic. But beer culture doesn't stop at borders. People travel more and more. Brewers and beer lovers talk, exchange knowledge, talk about recipe, talk about ingredients, and they influence each other. Passion for beer is actually internationally contagious. So we saw beer styles cross the Atlantic Ocean and come back to Europe with a new twist, with a new interpretation. But still, it took a while for Belgium to embrace this renewal. Other European countries and regions, less burdened by this long-standing tradition, were much quicker to experiment with the New World beer philosophy. Regions like Scandinavia, countries like the UK, the Netherlands, Italy, and even wine country by excellence, France, have a well-established craft beer culture. Belgium was one of the last countries in Europe to go that new way, to take on that new evolution. Far from us to dismiss our heritage, it is in fact invaluable. We'd rather choose to integrate the old and the new and to build upon the tradition and the high-quality standards, but make new beers, build new recipes, be creative. Which brings about an even more bewildering array of Belgian beers. I don't know the exact number of Belgian beers, but there are way too many to count, let alone way too many to taste, actually. I will take a deep dive with you into a few different beer styles. Some of them are iconically Belgian. You see them there on the screen. We have triple, saison, oud-bruin, Geuze, lambic, wit bier. If you see these beer styles, you will think about Belgium, or you should think about Belgium, I will say. Strong in alcohol and yellow to golden in color, the Belgian triple is probably the best-known Belgian beer style. It's a style that is open to interpretation. Some of triples are, are Abbey beers, some of them are Trappist beers, others are none of the above. But what they do have in common is a characteristic Belgian yeast aroma. Fruity esters and spiciness are dominant tones. Some iconic triples, like the Westmalle, which you maybe have had, has a lot of banana flavor. There are no bananas in the beer. It's only the Belgian yeast that gives off tons of banana. Those spicy esters mix gently with the more malty and more European hop-forward tones of the beer. High fermentation and bottle conditioning, that's a secondary fermentation in the bottle, are also very common. Another typical Belgian beer style is a saison or farmhouse ale, and both names refer to the historical origins of those beers. Saisons started out as seasonal beers in the farms in Wallonia. The cooler season, so late fall to early spring, were also a time of less activity on the fields and were actually the best times to brew beer. These beers were lower in ABV than the saisons you will find nowadays, and they would brew then the perfect beers for the seasonal workers in the fields in summer. So it was important that the ABV was quite low to allow them to refresh themselves with the beer but still be able to do their jobs. Crossing the linguistic border and back to Flanders, Oud Bruin, or Old Brown, is a Flemish beer style. It is a blend of young and old beers that have matured on wooden casks, also named foeders, or in stainless steel tanks. Unlike the name would suggest, these beers are not brown, but actually ruby red or red-brown, depending on the variety. The flavor profile is an intricate contrast between sweet and sour, making these beers very complex and highly enjoyable. Geuses and Lambics from Belgium are world-renowned. Actually, they almost need no further introduction because beer lovers all over the world are crazy about them. Lambic is a result of spontaneous fermentation in the Brussels region. So wild yeast will inoculate the brew, giving the typical tart, sour, and funky aromas. Master blenders will then blend lambics of different ages and allow them to age in wooden barrels, where they will sit sometimes for 5 years or more. So that is a very slow beer to produce, a very slow beer to blend. But that produces very complex beers that can be very sour, so they will definitely make you pucker up, but will maybe make you smile at the same time if sour is your thing. Typical Belgian wit beer, white beer in English, is a beer style that goes back to 14th century Belgian monasteries, and a time where all brewing ingredients used to come from local crops. Hops hadn't gained their monopoly in the brewing process yet, and instead brewers used gruit in English, a mix of different herbs and spices. And these herbs and spices would balance out the sweetness of the malt, creating a beverage that was quite bitter, but also still had that sweet backbone. Later on, the use of hops became dominant, and gruit actually disappeared. There are almost no beers left that were brewed with gruit. But because of changes in the industry and the shift in popularity, the cloudy wit beers, oh, thank you, it's very nice. I lost my voice this weekend, and it's still not coming back, but maybe water will help. Maybe a beer will help better. We'll see. So I was talking about hops and changes in the industry. So those changes and a shift in popularity of certain beers, because beers, there's also a fashion in beers, strangely, made that wit beers kind of disappeared, and they disappeared in favor of a new crisp beer style known as Pilsner that came in from Czechia. So most of the breweries in Belgium that were producing wit beers by the end of the 1800s had to close their doors because no one was having wit beer anymore. But we can't talk about wit beer without talking about or mentioning Pierre Celis, a former milkman who actually was single-handedly responsible for reviving the style of Belgian wit beer. You might know of the town where he lived. He lived in Hoegaarden. And he named the wit beer he recreated to the town where he actually was living. And he actually set the standard for what is still known as wit beer. Cloudy wheat beer, so lots of wheat added, not only malted barley, with spices, coriander and orange peel, and fermented with a typical white beer yeast strain. So you will have a beer that is very fruity because of all the esters, very drinkable, very fresh. All of the aforementioned styles have been brewed and crafted in Belgium for centuries, but haven't really changed a lot. Recipes haven't changed, brewing techniques have, they have been refined, quality standards have changed. There's better malting, yeast management, and more awareness about the brewing process. But the last few years, we have seen an increase in popularity in different styles, in more New World styles, or in contemporary interpretation of old beer styles. For example, that white beer, wheat beer I was talking about, there is also a German style of wheat beer, and that is a Berliner Weisse. As the name said, it was produced in Berlin, also a white beer, and it was known as a champagne of the north. Very dry beer, very drinkable, with a lactic sourness. The original version that was brewed in Berlin, there was usually syrupy sugars added, which is why you see the two beers on the screen that look like they're radioactive. It's just syrup that was added to make actually the sour beer a bit sweeter, which might be a bit of a shame. Modern-day craft brewers, also in Germany, produce this style in a completely different way than it was crafted centuries ago. Nowadays, we use kettle souring. That is a technique that is most frequently used in modern breweries. After filtration, wort is inoculated with lactic acid bacteria to undergo a fast souring process to quickly reach the desired pH. Wort is actually the sweet multi-liquid that consists of water and sugars, and the sugars we have extracted them from the grains from malted barley. Once the desired pH is reached, our wort is boiled to prevent contamination in the brewery. And after boiling and cooling, our beer is infected in a good way with Saccharomyces. Modern interpretations of Berliners can go up to 8% in ABV and contain fruit quite frequently. The most popular craft beer style at this time, and it has been for a few decades, is IPA, the beer style I was talking about earlier. This is in fact India Pale Ale. And that has its roots in England in the 17th century, a time when the East Indies Company played a central role in the Indian Ocean region trade. Bow Brewery was located at the shore of the River Leah in very close proximity to the docks of the East Indies Company. And that brewery allowed captains of the boats to pay their bill for the beers after returning from their trade missions in India. The proximity and advantageous financial agreement made Bow the obvious partner to export beer to India. Next to classical English porters, they also brewed October beers, which were blonde, strongly hopped beers that were meant to be stored away for at least 2 years. But they shipped these beers as pale ale prepared for India. The turbulent trip to the colony fastened the aging process and actually made these beers highly suitable for consumption right upon arrival. So these blonde, highly attenuated and strongly hopped pale ales became more and more popular in England, in home country, in the colony in India, also in the rest of Europe. But also there, the Pilsner came into play at about the same time, and India Pale Ales disappeared from the scene. And it was only centuries later that actually American homebrewers, the ones I was talking about before, revived the beer style that is known as APA. But as I said, they didn't just copy the existing recipes from England, but they added their own touch, and their own touch that was American hops. American hops, as I said, have other aromas, have another level of bitterness, so you will create a completely different beer. What these homebrewers didn't know then, and what the world didn't know, was that they would change the face of craft beer forever. Because American hops, also you have New Zealand hops now, hops from the New Worlds actually are very, very popular. And these spicy aromatics and these fruity flavors are really very hyped and very nice if you like bitter. It's hard to keep up also with everything that is IPA nowadays because you have West Coast IPA, East Coast, New England, White IPA, Black IPA, Sour IPA, Belgian IPA, and I think even a few more, so it's hard to keep up. But the craft beer movement, it's not just a matter of changed beer or changed recipes, but it's actually more a way of life where exchange, community, and openness are actually pivotal. Brewers from different breweries, national and international, make beer together. They exchange expertise, talk about ingredients, about recipes. And this might be the most important aspect of beer culture, also in Belgium. Its unique capability of bringing people together, of opening dialogue, and of starting conversation. Alcohol is, in moderate amounts, the ideal social lubricant. But the world of beer is not just the world of brewers and beer drinkers, because we see beer culture expand to other fields of food and drink. More and more chefs and foodies have come to appreciate the exquisite combinations of beer and food. Starred restaurants include beers in their menu, and mixologists use beer in cocktails. More and more people are taking brew courses, sommelier courses, so beer has become a trendy thing. It also works the other way around. Brewers are inspired by what is happening in different branches of beverage and food production. Young breweries experience brewing more as a creative than as an industrial activity. Beers inspired by cocktails, food dishes, desserts, wines, name it, modern-day breweries are making it. In earlier days, experimental brewing was something Belgians would laugh away or laugh off and would never want to take part in because it was not our tradition. Today, the tides have changed, and next to the traditional ales, a lot of modern brews are being brewed in our country. Besides the big, old, traditional breweries, you have a new flourishing scene of more modern-minded breweries that want to incorporate the tradition with the innovation. And what lays in front of us in Belgium is probably one of the most exciting times of the last centuries, beer-wise, also on some other levels, but let's not start about that. After all this talk about beer, I would like to invite you to see my colleagues downstairs and to taste some of the styles I have been talking about. We will have a Pilsner for you, a few IPAs, a Porter and a Saison, or farmhouse ale. We wish you a tasty discovery, and I thank you for your attention. Have a good night.
Thank you for that introduction, Daniela. Before closing, just a warm welcome to come to the lecture of Joris Relaas tomorrow morning in this room, 8:30. I know it is early, but it will be worth it. He will give a broad introduction into the Belgian agriculture. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this award ceremony. I would like to invite you to the reception downstairs, where we can taste and enjoy the beers we've just learned about. Maybe just one practical note before you all rush out. You can go downstairs two ways, to the right side by the escalators, and to the left side over the bridge down to the wheelchair passage. Thank you for listening. I hope you all have a successful Congress and enjoy the reception.